about before they were stars this week. Welcome. This is the Fright Club Podcast.
I'm Hope Madden.
And I'm George Wolf, and we're from madwolf.com. And we're going back in the archives to take a look at how some big stars kind of got first noticed in some horror films.
Yeah, so it's not going to be like a Skeletons of Closet, which we do kind of, every so often. We'll just look at the really god-awful early horror work from people. These are actually good films. So a couple of them are really good films that kind of got some major celebrities noticed back when they were still struggling.
Yeah, some are actually film debuts. Some, the people have made some before, but weren't quite names yet.
You sure?
But now they're movies where you look back and go, yeah, and that has, look who's in this. So and we've talked about a few of these before, but some not. And I think at least one or two might surprise you. So we'll get into that. But first, we have to say another big thank you to the second appearance last week from our senior Aussie correspondent, Corey Metcalf.
That's right. He joined us for the Best Slashers countdown because he's a huge Slashers fan and helped us out with that one. And I got to admit, which we knew at the time, so it caused a bit of a ruckus. We had.
Can you describe the ruckus?
There was a squabble because I defined slasher. I for our purposes, I put out a definition of slasher and it eliminated certain, which was the point, because there are 100,000 different slasher movies, and I wanted a way to sort of decide exactly what we were looking at. And George immediately had a bone to pick with my definition.
I'm just happy because it looks like I might have won one.
I know, right? I know.
I usually go into it knowing, no, I'm not. This is futile for me, but I'm going to say it anyway. But yeah, I kind of threw out there that I might call Psycho a slasher film. I think Psycho definitely for me, and then maybe Texas Chainsaw. And we had a few people back me up on that. So, I'm walking with a little pep in my step this week.
And of course, I eliminated those because as far as I'm concerned, it's not a slasher if you all go to one isolated spot. That's more of almost like a haunted house style film. So, for me, the slasher has to chase you around and chase a group of people around and pick you off one by one. But whatever.
You made your case, counselor.
Okay.
We've heard your side.
Although I do want to point out, Adam on Facebook said Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
And I did think about including Peeping Tom. It doesn't 100% fit my definition, but it is a great movie. So I just thought I would throw it out there. He mentioned Peeping Tom, and I do love that movie.
So even though we didn't do that, honestly, we didn't do that just to try to make a fake argument. It's nice sometimes when we do disagree like that because it gets conversation going, which is always fun. At Mad Wolf on Twitter.
I have one thing to say about that.
What?
House.
Yeah, I know. That's like scoreboard. You're like, I know, I lost it.
Everybody agreed with me on the movie House.
I realize that. So, but like I said, I'm just happy to get one, maybe one, a half of one. But that was a lot of fun, slashers. And by the way, we're going to continue the slasher talk when we kind of return the favor on Corey's Triple Cast this week.
That's right. He also has a podcast on Golden Spiral Media, which is the lovely people who host our show. And it's called Triple Cast, and it's about movies. And he talks about, for 3 weeks in a row, on a theme. So 3 different films on one theme. And the theme right now for October is crazy slasher sequels. So we were on last week, and we talked about Halloween 6. It's just called, really, Halloween Curse of Michael Myers. But we talked about it really because of
Paul Stephen Rudd.
That's right.
Excuse.
So we're actually going to tape it later tonight. We're going to talk about Sleepaway Camp 2.
Woo! And I'll tell you what, if I didn't care for Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, and I didn't, that is Citizen Kane compared to this piece of... Woo! So there's a little
George
preview.
does not have a really high tolerance for bad horror movies.
No.
You know what? I'll watch them all day. I like bad horror movies in their own way.
Oh, but I'm sitting there watching this Sleepaway Camp thing. Really?
The sequel, by the way, not the original.
No. I know that's a lot of fun. But, oh, man, bad. Anyway, so that's going to be...
So we'll make fun of that later this week. Check us out. It's on Wednesday. Those go... Triple Cast goes live on Wednesdays.
Yeah, and Wednesdays are good for us because that is this coming Wednesday is the next edition, a special edition of Fright Club Live, our live movie screening. We're going to do it this coming Wednesday, Gateway Film Center, right there on the OSU campus in Columbus. If you're in the central Ohio area, please come down. And this is special because for the first time ever, we're going to record this very podcast live with a pumped studio audience.
That's right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so get ready. We're gonna count down the 5 best New Zealand horror films just before we unspool Housebound, which is so much fun to watch in a crowd.
So much fun. So it's going to be a big time. We're going to have prizes, going to have a lot of fun and record that podcast. So more on that coming up.
Can I say just one more thing before we jump in?
Please.
Because I'm geeked about it. I got to interview director Rodney Asher yesterday. So Room 337 and The Nightmare, I got to interview him yesterday.
Speaking of pep in your step.
That's right. So I just wanted to say that was awesome, that he is just as cool as you think he might be, and that the whole QA will be on screenrelish.com.
That is so cool, and you got some serious online love, especially in the horror forum on Facebook, the Columbus Horror. You threw that out there, and it was just like, flies on what going on. Oh, that's so cool. So he was as great as you expected?
He was awesome. Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah, so that's and he doesn't really have anything in the can, right, coming up soon?
No, what he says is he doesn't have anything full time. He's got 4 or 5 different projects. He's just waiting to see which one kind of takes root.
And that interview is going to be posted at screenrelish.com.
Correct.
Here soon, very soon?
Probably Monday.
Okay. So you can always check out that website as well, because we both do a lot of writing on screenrelish.com as well as our home, madwolf.com. So, all right, we want to get to the top 5 countdown. It's Before They Were Stars, How You Like Me Now, and we're going to start out at number 5 with this guy has become one of the leading A-listers. Oscar nominated 3 years in a row, and it's only a matter of time before he wins. And that is Bradley Cooper, back to 2002 in My Little Eye.
You know the number one cause of most stalkings? Forgetfulness. People forget to close their curtains.
Now I suddenly feel all on display.
I hate this house.
Take cover!
Creepy ass house.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Please.
You guys don't have to worry. You're much more likely to be killed by somebody you know.
So it's not a giant role that he has in this film, but it's a pivotal one. And it's sort of a, MTV Real World sort of a situation. These 5 people from different parts of the country, different walks of life, they all sign on to live in a house for a year and be watched. But it's not for TV, it's it's online. And they haven't really looked closely into the background of all of this. And the idea is if they leave the house at all in a year, none of them get any money. But if they all stay, then they get $1 million. And then toward the end of the year, bad things start to happen. Food stops arriving. Letters from home start getting spooky. And then eventually some handsome lost hiker shows up on the door. And it is Bradley Cooper. His character sort of introduces a bit of chaos, and a lot of horror follows. I mean, his character is a catalyst in the film. And it's also, the film is a bit claustrophobic and drab, and he also when he comes in, it's a lot of sort of energy and new life, and he's very interesting, and of course he's just gorgeous, and it's just a really big shakeup in the film when he shows up, and he makes a big impression. It's not a very big role, but it's a sly one, and he does a nice job with it.
And this was not his debut. This was his second movie?
Right after Wet Hot American Summer.
2 wildly different movies. Wet Hot is so great. And also the sequels on Netflix are running right now. Check that out if you haven't. But anyway, Bradley Cooper. Now, when you're talking about Bradley Cooper in this type of role, I think immediately people are going to be thinking, why not Midnight Meat Train?
Yeah, well, that's a skeleton in the closet as far as I'm concerned. As you know, I'm not a big fan of the Midnight Meat Train, although it's a great title.
It is a great title, and why they used it on the marquee in Silver Linings Playbook.
That's right, they did.
Awesome. Such a nice little callback. But so this is one that this is just from 2002, not one that I'd heard of.
Yeah.
It's kind
of one that falls almost in the found footage category, in a lot of ways. And you might, if you were to sort of Google, I don't know, good found footage films, this one kind of bubbles up. It is an interesting movie. It's not brilliant, but it's creepy. It is. It was co-written by James Watkins, who we will talk about again later in here. But he's got a nice career going for him in horror. So
is it a straight up found footage?
No, I mean for most of it is showing you what's happening through like sort of fisheye cameras around the house, but a lot of it is not. A lot of it is just you're sort of in the house with the people.
But as I think what happens in a lot of these, when you have someone who went on to be a big star in a smaller role, not always, as you've mentioned with Brad Pitt in Cutting Class, but they make an impression because they have the talent.
Yeah, and I think it's more than just talent. although certainly Bradley Cooper has that, he just has a presence about him. He's got charisma, and he I think for me, really great actors, it's not the way they act, it's the way they react to other people. That's what I think sets people apart. There are people who come in and deliver their lines and wait for their next line. There are other people who seem to thrive off of what everybody else in the room is doing the way you would do in real life. And that's something that I think you can see from him.
I would assume that's not only natural talent, but also training.
I don't know. Could be.
Well, I mean, they're going to give you that if he's had a lot of, and we know from his appearance on Inside the Actors Studio
right.
with Sean Penn, sorry, Louis C.K., that he was a part of that. So, he shows up out of nowhere in My Little Eye 2002. And overall, a good movie.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so one to seek out. And that's number 5 in our Before There Were Stars countdown. And moving on to number 4, one that we've talked about a lot with good reason. I think we talked about it just last week. From 1984, the film debut for one Mr. Johnny Depp in A Nightmare on Elm Street. That has become one of the iconic images, and not just because it's Johnny Depp, but the fact that he just gets sucked through the bed, and then just that cascade of blood shower.
Right. You're in trouble when there's no body bag, it's buckets.
Yeah. So that was his film debut, poofy hair and all, found by Wes Craven. And then it was after this that 21 Jump Street he went on?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Yeah.
So this got him going. And again, not a huge part in the movie as far as screen time, but he made an impression as he usually does.
Yeah, I think, his talent is not as obvious in this one as, say, Bradley Cooper's is. He never acted before. He actually was like a musician. That's what he had come to L.A. to be, as a musician. And in interviews, Wes Craven has said he did not want to hire him. He thought he was too pasty and goofy looking. But his daughter swooned. And so he's like, well, I guess I'm not seeing what I should be seeing. So he hired him, and obviously proved to be a fine play because, like Bradley Cooper, he has 3-time Oscar-nominated Johnny Depp. He's gone on to be just one of the most butts in seats actors that you have out there.
And he could be number 4 here with Black Mass.
Yeah, it could
And by the way, you're talking about coming to Hollywood to be a musician. He's in that new. Have you heard about that new band he's in? It's Johnny Depp and Joe Perry on guitar. Alice Cooper is singing, and I think they're called the Hollywood Vampires. I swear to God, they're a real band, and they're doing shows out in the LA area. And I forget who's drumming, but from all accounts, he is a very capable musician, very capable guitarist.
You can find clips of him on YouTube all over the place playing with Marilyn Manson, and I would rather see him play with Marilyn Manson than Alice Cooper. But I'll go
if someone's going to give me some tickets. I'm going. No, I think they're called the Hollywood Vampires and doing shows out there. So he's multi-talented. But yeah, take it all the way back to 1984 and Johnny Depp's film debut in A Nightmare on Elm Street. And 2009 is where you're going to find our number 3 movie in our Before They Were Stars countdown. A nice little thriller that kind of sneaks up on you, and it's featuring Chris Hemsworth, A Perfect Getaway.
Hey, baby, look, it's Kale and Cleo getting married in Oahu.
Yeah, suitable for framing. You know what? We'll just drive you there.
10 miles. Listen. Oh, should have been there by now.
Maybe next time, huh?
Oh, Kale, don't be that way.
Baby, come on.
Come on, guys. You don't have to make this a bigger deal than...
Cleo, get out of this man's ride.
Yeah, Johnny Depp at number 4, Chris Hemsworth at number 3. Hit it!
It's raining men. Hallelujah.
If you didn't know that Hope assembled this countdown, you would now. A Perfect Getaway.
You like this movie?
Yeah, I did like this movie, and but I'm more of a Steve Zahn kind of guy.
Well, Timothy Olyphant too.
Yeah, Timothy Olyphant is always great, but this one, it's you couldn't call it a horror movie really. It's a thriller. It's more of a thriller. But there's definitely some killing and some murder going on.
Yes, there is, and it's a very clever sort of role reversal identity, film, and it keeps you guessing the whole time because the 3 different couples are on the side of a mountain in Hawaii, all vacationing, and there's also a serial killer on the loose, and the serial killer is a couple. So it's like, your core couple, your point of view character, Steve Zahn and Mila Jovovich. So through their eyes, you're looking at Timothy Olyphant and his girlfriend, and is it them? Are they the killers? And then, but everybody originally thinks it's because Chris Hemsworth and his girlfriend, they seem sketchy from the beginning, and he's a very menacing presence, and so it's just a lot of like guesswork. Who is it? And are you my friend, or should I be afraid of you? And it's just very clever the way it turns, and the scenery is spectacular.
Yeah.
And simultaneously scary because you're on the side of a mountain, and you know what I mean? It's like death could be anywhere. It's just, but the performances are great. The writing is very crisp. I mean, it's nicely done.
It reminds me a lot of that movie, and I forget the year, called Shoot to Kill. It was Sidney Poitier and Tom Berenger, where they're and Kirstie Alley's in there too. It's the same deal where you don't know. There's a group of hikers. They're out. First they're out in the woods, and then they end up back in the city. But when they're in the woods, you don't know. Any group of these hikers could be the killer, and they make them each seem a little sketchy every time. And one of the guys is the guy from Hellraiser. I forget his name, the actor. But one of the that gets torn apart in Hellraiser. He's one of the hikers in Shoot to Kill.
Okay.
Anyway, it reminds me of that because it makes each person seem like, yeah, it could be them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how this works too. And it works pretty well and keeps you guessing till the end. But this is not Chris Hemsworth's debut. It's his second movie. I didn't realize this. He was in one of the Star Trek reboots.
Yeah, he plays Kirk's father. So it's like a one quick scene.
Wow.
He plays Chris Pine's father. Mm-hmm.
No idea that was his debut.
It's a good-looking family.
You would know that. Yeah, you've done the research work. But and that was the writer-director of A Perfect Getaway, David Twohy. Critters 2 on his resume as well. Look at this resume. All of the Riddick movies.
Right.
But The Fugitive.
Right.
That's kind of peaks and valleys, I guess. Perfect Getaway is one I think that comes up as a movie that kind of slipped through the cracks, and then people find it maybe for Chris Hemsworth now, and people find it and end up watching and then say, hey, that was pretty good.
Yeah. I gotta say, so Steve Zahn, both of us really like Steve Zahn. He's a great comic actor, and he's a good dramatic actor. He's just really good. But Timothy Olyphant, how awesome is he?
He's great.
He's always great, and he is great in this movie.
He is always great. Even, I don't know why he was in this piece of
situational awareness, he says. Situational awareness. Yeah, he's great.
Back, I had to see that I Am Number 4 years ago, and he shows up in that as one of the guy's dad. And you're just like, what are you doing? Because the movie was just heinous. But he's one of those guys
he's always good.
That just shows up and is good.
Yeah.
And just improves everything.
Yeah. Go. I love him in Go.
Go.
He's awesome.
He's great.
He's awesome.
And
Girl Next Door.
The Girl Next Door. That's where he says, this guy is the best weed. Remember that? And he had that show Justified, which we've never seen, but I guess was very good. It was on
I
for a while.
imagine, because he's awesome.
Because he's always awesome. So he says, a good cast all the way around, and a nice little thriller, and featuring pause for hope to swoon a little bit. The second appearance of Chris Hemsworth in 2009. And moving on up to number 2 in our list of Before They Were Stars. This one gets a lot of love from us for good reason, and it features Michael Fassbender, Eden Lake.
Why don't we just find another spot?
I'm not going to be bullied away by a bunch of 12-year-olds.
Steve, where's the beach bag?
It's got the car keys in it.
First phone he sees 999. Now we've got to finish this.
Run!
So Michael Fassbender had done a couple of smaller films before this. He had done Hunger with Steve McQueen, who would actually go on, obviously, to direct him in his Oscar-nominated role in 12 Years a Slave. But it was a very minor film. Small film, independent foreign film, and this also was a very small film, and it's written and directed by James Watkins, who co-wrote My Little Eye, also directed The Woman in Black,
nice.
Which we love, right?
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of his, and I'm intrigued to see everything else that he does. But it's a very well written film, it's a very well directed film, it's brutal. It's insightful. It's terrifying. But the thing that I think the reason to talk about it today, good God, his casting. Right? I mean, Michael Fassbender, really before anybody knew who he was, he'd been in 300, the movie 300, and then he'd been in Hunger. And now all of a sudden he's got a chance to really be and he is so good in this because he's such a flawed character. He's so human. He's kind of a dick at times, At the other times he's courageous. At other times he's a coward. He's smug. He's decent. I mean, he just does a miraculous job in this. Kelly Riley also is really great in this. She gets a chance to be like a very strong character, which is a nice change of pace for horror. But the other one, and he's not as big a name yet, but he's going to be Jack O'Connell is. Oh my God, he just destroys this movie. He's terrifying in this movie.
Yeah, and it's the couple, Michael Fassbender and Kelly Riley. They're getting away, and they think of this secluded lake, and they're disturbed, they're bothered by a group of loud, unruly kids. And there's some nice foreshadowing in the beginning when they just kind of cross paths with them, but not really. And then they do, and Michael Fassbender doesn't want to be, as he says, bullied by a bunch of 12-year-olds. And goes over and confronts them, and then things go downhill from there, especially for him. And it becomes a real, tale of survival out there in the woods. So it becomes a thriller in that regard. And the kids, especially Jack O'Connell, who is the ringleader and the most sadistic, and you find out why. Of the group, not only to the adults but to some fellow kids.
Yeah,
he is great. And,
oh my God, he's terrifying.
Yeah, and
he's
then
so great.
It leads to a finale that, as I saw online from doing research for this, it didn't go over well with a lot of people.
No, it did not. Actually, it was one of our Fright Club screenings back in the day, one of the very first ones we did, and we had some people in the audience who felt the same way. I'm totally good with the finale of the film. I love the film beginning to end. I think it's really, really, it's brutal and difficult, but wonderful. And I didn't really know Michael Fassbender before I saw this movie. He stuck with me. He's just so outstanding.
The only thing I had seen him in before this, and I don't know if we made it first, he was in that, what's it called?
Fishbowl?
Fishbowl, where he was the much too old, got involved with a much younger girl. And I don't know if that was made before.
No, it would have been after because...
Okay, well, I saw it first. Yeah. And that's where he first got on my radar. But this is one of the ones that was bubbling under before he took off. And I just read today a review, the first review I've read of Steve Jobs.
Okay.
That was just glowing.
Yeah, so he's got two out. You know, we see Steve Jobs next week, and then Macbeth, I'm not sure when that's going to screen here, but yeah, he's got two huge movies coming out right now.
So yeah, as you said, a lot of early talent in this one.
Yeah.
The two leads and Jack O'Connell, who, as you said, I think we can rest assured we're going to be hearing from.
He's pretty bankable.
In the future. So lots of reasons to check that out if you haven't already. Eden Lake is number 2, and that moves us up to number 1 in our Before They Were Stars countdown. Not only because it's a great movie, but because it features two of these future big stars, Christian Bale and Reese Witherspoon, and I should say 3, because Jared Leto is in there too. It's American Psycho.
I want a firm commitment.
I think, Evelyn, that, we've lost touch.
Why? What's wrong?
My need to engage in homicidal behavior on a massive scale cannot be corrected, but I have no other way to fulfill my needs. We need to talk.
Talk about what, Patrick?
It's over. Evelyn, it's all over.
You're inhuman.
No, I'm in touch with humanity.
Yeah, that's one thing you can say about him in this movie. He's in touch with humanity, as well as his love for 80s rock. Little Huey Lewis, little
soft rock,
little Phil Collins. American Psycho. It's got Christian Bale, Reese Witherspoon. There is one of the darkly hilarious scenes.
Yeah,
because he's breaking and he's telling her that he's a homicidal maniac, and she's looking around and she's chatting off his shoulder with some of her girlfriends until she finally gets it through her head that he's really breaking up with her. It's just hilarious. And then we've talked about before Jared Leto in the very couple of very famous scenes. The business card scene and then the Huey Lewis scene.
Oh, sure. Well, it's not just them. Also, you got Josh Lucas, Chloe Sevigny, Justin Theroux. I mean, it's just star-studded.
It really is.
You know, these people all took off to, fantastic careers. And Reese Witherspoon really shows, I mean, she's an Oscar winner. She's a very solid, she's very talented, but I think she is a great comic talent. And I think her best performances have been comedic performances, and that scene that you just showed is a prime example of it. She's so funny. And in Election, oh my God, I mean, she's just so funny.
Election was great, but then Walk the Line is the one she won the Oscar for, and she was great. And then Wild, she was very good and just was nominated last year.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying she's not. She's a good dramatic actress too. But I just my favorites are all of her comic performances, including this one.
But I don't think that includes. What was that one you had to see last year?
Oh my God,
Sofia Vergara. What was that?
What was that called? Hot Pursuit.
Hot Pursuit.
Oh,
you hated
Jesus.
that so much.
Oh my God.
You and everybody else. But I think you're right, because this movie is so darkly hilarious. We've played the business card scene before on this podcast, and I think every time I see the business card scene, it gets funnier to me. Just when I see it, I think people can't watch this movie if you don't think it's a comedy. It's hilarious, especially in that scene. And of course the Huey Lewis scene, which has been viewed many, many times and hilariously parodied by Huey Lewis and Weird Al Yankovic themselves. Which is just great. So those have kind of been pulled from the movie to be the most famous scenes. But yeah, this one and so many other images, running naked with a chainsaw.
Oh my God.
I mean, the whole thing is full of...
That's what it comes down to. I mean, it's a brilliantly written... It's really a brilliantly written movie, and it's incredibly well directed. There is just so much... I mean, every single thing in every single frame is just perfect. The performances are outstanding. But more than anything, it's just Christian Bale. And it's not as if he had been a nobody prior to this. Of course, he was Empire of the Sun when he was a child.
Right.
But he'd really fallen on hard times. I mean, he hadn't made a decent movie. He really hadn't made a movie anybody had heard of in years and years. And this was... the stepping stone toward greatness. Of course, an Oscar winner and a perennial contender, and just one of the all-time great actors. All-time great.
Yeah, he's so good. So you've got three, in this movie here, you've got three future Oscar winners. And it's funny because after this, Jared Leto, it took a while for him to get rolling.
It did.
He had that side track with music, which he still does with his band, 30 Seconds to Mars. But now, of course, all the way. He's an Oscar winner. Requiem for a Dream.
Does that count for a horror movie? Because it horrified me.
I'll tell you.
Oh, my God.
Now, I just watched that the other night, parts of it. It was on late night. I was up, I couldn't sleep or whatever, and watched some of that. Oh, man, rough. But, before he came back big, of course, with the Oscar win, and now he's getting ready to reboot The Joker in the Suicide Squad. Big shoes to fill, but you know what? I'm very interested to see what he can do with it, because that's a challenge. That is a huge challenge. But yeah, so that's not only because how good the movie is, but because you've got three of these in this movie. And all the other very big talent you mentioned puts American Psycho at numero uno in our Before They Were Stars. How You Like Me Now countdown, and American Psycho from 2000. And that, of course, is based on the Bret Easton Ellis novel that a lot of fans of the book
don't like the movie.
Weren't wild about the movie adaptation. I didn't read the book, so I can't say. I can just tell you, as a movie, thumbs up, big time.
Oh my God! For my money, it's the very best ever horror comedy.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we've done that countdown before, and it was number one. So yeah, so number one on this countdown as well, and that takes us up to looking ahead to the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Actually, if you want to, if you feel like it, you can hop over to ScreenRelish.com. I did the Saturday Screamer this week, and coincidentally, I celebrate American Psycho, so you can read me say more lovely things about it.
It all comes together. But you know what? If there's some that we missed, some big stars now and movies that we missed, please let us know, because that's what we love to keep talking about on Twitter at MaddWolf, MaddWolf. Of course, ScreenRelish.com. Lots of ways to get a hold of us. But if there's any big stars that had these good smaller roles,
little gems, right? We're not talking about Critters 3 and Leonardo DiCaprio, or He Knows You're Alone and Tom Hanks. We're not talking about the bad early ones, but the ones where, big stars, got their break in something that's worth seeing, especially if maybe not a lot of people saw it.
Yeah, definitely. So let us know, and be sure to stop by if you can in the area this Wednesday at the Gateway Film Center for Fright Club Live. Going to show Housebound on the big screen, have a bunch of fun, hoot and holler, and we're also going to record this podcast with a live audience.
That's right, so you can help us count down the 5 best Kiwi horror movies.
Always fun. So if you have any thoughts on that as well, any New Zealand treasures, let us know, and we'll add them to the list.
That's right.
Hopefully to make the list.
We're gonna have upcoming. We're gonna have a co-host, Neil McRobert at NACMAC. You might remember him at NACMAC because I love his Twitter. He's going to help us count down the best on-screen Stephen King movies. That's coming up not too long.
Oh, that's right, because he's a big Stephen King expert.
Yes,
correct?
he is. He is a Stephen King expert. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so there could be a fight. I don't know. I'm just prepping you.
Well, we should also bring up, speaking of you just talking to Rodney Asher, bring up Room 237 and get his thoughts on that as well.
Yeah.
So that should be interesting. That should be a fun one.
Actually, we got a couple of suggestions online on Twitter from AJ the Greek. He would like to hear one. Best horror movie openings.
Good.
It's a nice idea. And then best endings.
Openings and endings.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good stuff. Love
possibility.
those ideas. I love those names.
Dirk Diggler.
Sorry. Obscure Boogie Nights reference thrown in there. But yeah, so all that's coming down. We look forward to it. Always look forward to hearing from you as well. And until then,
I'm Hope Madden.
And I am George Wolf. And this is the Fright Club Podcast.
Stay frightful, my friends.
How you like